following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back talking Mets baseball, hot stove league variety. I'm Ralph Tyko, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The two mavens, Met mavens, Robert Cole and Marty Rose are here. Start with you, Robert. How in the hell are you?
Oh, doing wonderful. We probably had a picture-perfect day today, after not seeing the sun since last Thursday. And today was
I read a post of yours last Thursday. We're talking Florida here, and 4 or 5 days with no sun.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I never thought, certainly haven't ever seen it the few times I've been to visit, but never even heard of it. I thought it was pretty consistent. Marty, have you? You've been down there about 2 years. Did you get the same weather?
Been here almost 4 years now, Ralph. Believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And it's been chilly, and the sun was out today. It was very nice, like Robert said. But the previous three days or so was actually chilly and no sun. Yeah, because we're getting ready to move soon, and we were working in the garage, and I had a long sleeve shirt and a sweatshirt on. So.
Whoa. Whoa, and long pants too.
Yeah.
And yes, jeans for sure. Yes.
I thought I was back in Brooklyn for the week. It was gray, dingy, chilly. Oof.
Well, you'd at least have been able to get an egg cream.
That would have been nice, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Some advantages and some disadvantages, I'm sure. You'd hate to be an Hasidic Jew, or a Hasidic. Is a Hasidic or an Hasidic? That's a good question. Jew living in Brooklyn these days. There have been an inordinate amount of attacks of anti-Semitism, and it all stems around the Hasidics, it seems to be. So what a world we live in, and talking about the world we live in and the passing of time, Marty, you said it best. It's been 4 years you've been in Florida. Now, for old people out there, they understand the passing of time goes much, much faster. But if you're young and you're listening, you can't imagine how quickly that 4 years passed I'm sure for Marty too and Robert.
Yep.
It just, time flies these days. And it's, not good. Let's put it that way. So, a resounding fuck you, mortality. And everything that goes with it, that was heartfelt, I must say. And it slipped right off my tongue. So I'm not holding the one thing at this age. What's to hold back? What the hell? Yeah. So let's talk about little Met baseball. Start with you, Robert. We have about 4 or 5 topics that we discussed off air, all of them interesting and provocative. So this should be fun tonight. Robert, you open it up, and then we'll go to Marty for his topic.
Okay. Well, let's talk, the Houston Astros becoming the New England Patriots of baseball and, supposedly using some of Bill Belichick's things that he's used in the past, such as stealing signs and, taking movies and, different things like that. And the way it affects our Mets is Carlos Beltron, our just named new manager, has been fingered as one of the ringleaders of the sign stealing, supposedly. So, we have to keep an eye on that. I don't think Beltron should be treated any differently than any other player on the Houston Astros because, after all, he was a player. He was not a coach like Cora or the manager. He was just a player. So, everybody keeps saying, well, he's a manager now and he needs to be treated differently. I don't think that should be the case at all. What do you think about that, Marty?
Somebody like Beltron was not going to be the guy who put this whole thing into effect. This had to happen way over his head if they're using big technology and cameras in the outfield and whatever. This had to come from pretty high up to get it started. So, if he just took part in it somehow, doing something in the dugout or whatever, then I don't see how he's going to get punished. I think if they punish anybody, it's got to be a team punishment somehow by either taking away draft picks or a fine or both or something like that. I don't think any of the individual players are going to be affected or fined or anything. I really don't.
Robert, you said that he was allegedly now accused of a higher up than just one of the guys participating, and that's what the original. Yeah.
Right,
the original stories.
Right, he's supposedly one of the ringleaders, one of the main, guys. However, he was still just a player. I can see the manager Hinch possibly being suspended and fined. If this is going on, he obviously knows about it. And he should be held more highly responsible than any of the players. But, no matter what players were doing stuff, they were still just players. And it always should go to the top, not the, like in the service, you go to the top. You shouldn't be blaming the infantrymen. It's the generals and the lieutenant colonels that are, the ones that should get the blame. That, though, of course, it doesn't always happen that way.
Right. My Life, for instance. There's an example for another show. It's doubts. The Manfred's anger at this because electronic sign stealing is clearly against the rules. It was almost a badge of honor in the old days to steal signs, and it probably still is. But electronically, that's different. Now, I know the Giants of 51, because of a book called Green Cathedrals, I think it's called, by a Wall Street Journal writer whose name escapes me, basically said that the 51 Giants were stealing signs through a telescope in the center field bleachers, in the center field, where for those of you listening that don't know the Polo Grounds, get some pictures off Google and you'll see the clubhouse 480 some feet away from home plate. They were stealing signs with a telescope, and their record down the stretch was incredible to beat the Dodgers. And it turns out that Bobby Thompson knew what pitch was coming. He knew it was a fastball. Still had to hit it, but knew what pitch it was. Tremendous advantage.
Oh, yeah.
You could imagine electronically what they can do. You can see stuff now at home that's why going to a ball game is almost ridiculous, especially if you can pay $100 for a ticket. with TV coverage the way it is, it's unbelievable. So you can imagine that enhanced by people specifically trying to get the upper hand. Manfred was pissed. It goes to the integrity of the game, and as Robert says, a ringleader in this. How's he going to come down? My guess is 50 games minimum, if not half a season for Beltron, and they'll make an example of the whole thing. New York, this, that, and the other thing, gets more headlines, and I think he won't start the season on the bench, but that's just my opinion. Marty?
I disagree. I think it's going to be some kind of penalty to the Houston organization, like I said before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Draft picks, something that they can take away, to hurt the team. No individuals, I don't think, but something to hurt the team. I don't think there's going to be any individuals suspended at all. I don't think so. What's done is done.
Well, I hope so for the Mets' sake. We're talking continuity, and we're talking a bunch of stuff. So I certainly hope so. Robert, do you agree with Marty?
I do. I don't think anything's going to happen to Beltron any more than any of the other players. I do, however, think that the manager very well could get some games and a hefty fine. Like I said, I mean, he's the man in charge, so, if anything's going on, he absolutely knows about it, or should know about it, whether he denies it or not. And, there's stuff now saying that, during the Yankee games, there was a lot of whistling going on. That's how they were, saying what pitches they were. When somebody in the dugout whistled, it meant a certain pitch was coming, a breaking ball, and that's how it was happening. It was also being said that Beltron was banging a garbage can cover. So, I mean, there's still so much coming out about it that, you don't really know what's real and what's not real. And so
it's got to be so hard to quantify, for crying out loud, especially Latins whistle at each other.
All the time.
All the time, right.
Yes.
That's part of their communication, given the language disparity or this, that, and the other thing. It's going to be hard to prove, but like I'm saying, I'm hearing Manfred's tone, and that's the only reason I form my opinion. And,
yeah. I mean, I don't know why, the picture that came out and, uncovered this did it. I really don't know why. Obviously, he has some sort of a axe to grind with the Houston organization, but we'll have to, bear watching, see what goes on.
Absolutely. All right. Mert, pick a category.
The rule changes coming up. All right, the 26-man thing. That's a very good idea. That especially for the National League teams that like to do double switching and whatnot. Then you need an extra body on the bench, even if even a third catcher, another infielder, somebody for pinch hitting or whatever. Because they're carrying so many relief pitchers now that they're often short on the bench with 3 guys available. You get into extra innings, it becomes kind of ridiculous after a while. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's a very good rule change with this 26th man. But the business with the relief pitching, with the guy having to face 3 batters. I don't like that one bit. I know about they don't want so many pitching changes and all that, but I mean, some guy comes in, and what if he doesn't have it? He throws 4 balls in a row. Now he's got to stay in for 2 more batters? I mean, that's not right. I don't like it. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of guys being injured and taken out of the game because that's still going to be allowed. If a guy, his arm hurts or something happens, and I think
that'll even take long. That'll even take longer for the guy to warm up. Take more time.
Yep.
I need 20 pitches to warm up now. I don't like it.
No, neither do I. But Manfred is trying to do too much, I think. We all know why games take so long, okay? And it really has nothing to do with what goes on between the lines. It has to do with commercials.
Absolutely.
An inordinate amount of commercials. And that's what takes so long. You go back to, games of, when we were kids, if we can remember back that far. But when we were kids, games usually took 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours and 15 minutes. And it was because of the commercials. And something that the Rays started doing a little bit of this year is they started doing a split screen, and in between pitchers, they started showing a commercial, like a quick 20, 30-second commercial in between pitches at certain times. And maybe you have to start doing that, like soccer. Soccer never takes a break, but they have little commercials down on the bottom or on the side. And, and that's one way you still can get the commercial dollars, and, the games won't take so long.
Well, I see more of that happening, too. I mean, it's on Fox is doing it. I think the Mets were doing it on SNY also, if I'm not mistaken, right in between pitches, like you said. Just like a 10-second thing on the screen that comes up,
right.
The pitcher's taking 30 seconds to throw the damn ball,
Yeah. Or, they go out to talk to the pitcher on the mound or something like that. Throw up a commercial.
Yeah. They do.
And that
they do. This change is lube oil change, that kind of stuff. They throw in enough commercials, but I understand.
Too, man. There's other things too, like between every swing, they got to adjust the batting gloves. Guys didn't have batting gloves like all those years ago. They stood in the box until their at-bat was over with, one way or the other. They got to adjust the batting gloves. They walk around behind the umpire. Why don't they make them stay in the box? I thought that was supposed to be a rule, but nobody enforces it.
It is a rule. The rule's in the book. The rule's absolutely in the book. And
you got to keep 1 foot in the box or something.
Yeah, 1 foot in the box, and it's enforced in high school and college and in minor leagues. It is enforced.
Well, it doesn't do us any good when we're watching.
But not in the majors. No.
Well, I can tell you probably why it isn't enforced is the umpires don't want the contention in their workplace, and their union probably lets them skate on that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear you. But these guys, when they come through the minors, okay, they're taught the right way. And then they get into, the big money of the majors, and they get into some very bad habits. You go to a minor league game and you watch the umpires. I mean, they're doing it the way they're taught by the book. And then a couple of years later, when they're in the majors, all of that goes out the window. It's totally different.
Mm. Well, what can I say?
Yeah.
How about the rule changes regarding umpires and the electronic way they may or may not call balls and strikes in the future? We're talking about the Atlantic League and the rule changes that are being experimented with and proposed. That's one of them. Robert, you're a former umpire on an amateur level. What's your take on the electronic age that we live in, which may allow balls and strikes to be determined electronically?
Well,
could have used electronic more in that question, but I chose not to use it 11 times. I knew 10 was enough. I cut it off at that.
Okay.
So I am.
I don't like it. Okay. I don't like it. You're going to start taking the human element out entirely. But what some people don't realize too, and I've seen things online and stuff, there will still be a home plate umpire. The home plate umpire will be in the same place that he always has been. He'll be in the same stance he always has been. The only difference is that he'll have an earpiece in his ear, and the electronic umpire will say ball or strike. He will then call ball or strike just like it's being called now. Okay? So there's really, unless you knew and are told that it's being called electronically, you're really not going to tell. Okay? He's still there in the same place. He's still going to call, check swings, foul balls, fair balls, all that stuff.
Yeah, so, foul tips you'll have to call too.
Foul tips, yes. So basically it's all the same. The only thing is he will not be using his judgment to make the ball and strike call. And my problem with that right now is until they can get this system where it can adjust to the different batters, and the batters, crouching or not crouching, Aaron Judge comes up, okay, how is it going to judge that between him and, Brett Gardner, for instance, okay?
Or Eddie Goodell.
Okay, Aaron Judge is up first, Brett Gardner behind them. I mean, look at that strike zone, the difference. How is that going to adjust?
The height. They have to. Haven't they done that yet? If they're using electronic balls and strikes in the Atlantic League, they must be doing that already with the height adjustment. They have.
Well, and there have been some controversies in the Atlantic League because of it. Okay, in fact, the one thing with Wally Backman. Wally Backman got into a big thing with an umpire because the call was made electronically on a batter, and there's a tape on YouTube about it. And
I watched that. You called our attention to it a week or so ago,
right?
And I watched that. It's a man going a little nuts.
Yeah.
as an adult, it was cute, but
Wally's a loose cannon anyway, so we know Wally. Yeah.
Yes.
But it's those things like that. So they got to have to decide if the umpire sees that it's an egregious call. In other words, there's no way that ball should be called a strike. Okay, will they allow him to overrule it and call it the way he saw it? So these are all the things that have to be worked out. And from what I understand, they're going to be doing it in some of the lower minor leagues this year as well. The regular minor leagues.
Oh, with the electronics?
Yes.
Whoa. Big expense, I'm sure. Could you imagine what this is costing them? And
well, yeah. I mean, even when they started with the replay and stuff, and once they started that, I mean, that opened up everything. Everything wants to be challenged, and everybody wants to look at this and look at that. So
sometimes it works better than others. I've watched games where the umpires will call for the replay, and boom, 7 seconds, out, safe. How much time does it take? There are times that it takes like 7 minutes, seems, 5 minutes.
Well, part of the problem that I have is that they give the manager all this time to check with his replay guy as to whether or not to challenge it. It should be done immediately, okay? You look at the play, right? You think that the umpire made a mistake, boom, challenge it. But you shouldn't be able to take 3-4 minutes, to find out, put your hand up and, have your bench coach talking to the guy in the dressing room who's looking at it. I mean, that's where a lot of the time comes, okay? And the guys in the replay, room and back in New York, they should already be looking at it, okay? So even before, the umpires go over and put the headsets on, those guys should have already looked at it. They know what play is going to be challenged and should already have it determined. It shouldn't take...
Oh, but I'm sure they don't. They have about 7 or 8 games in front of them at the same time. They're not watching the game. They're just responding to the buzz and drinking coffee.
Well, they have 2 crews, okay? They have two crews in the place in New York, okay? So that's 8 umpires. And you basically, can, right away, games in Yankee Stadium, okay? Well, somebody's got an eye on that. Oh, hey, take a look at this play at Yankee Stadium. They have time to look at it in advance. It shouldn't take as long as it takes. I mean, just like you said, 7, 8, 9 minutes, it shouldn't take that long.
No, it shouldn't. As a matter of fact, if they can't tell right away, watch it one time. Don't slow it down.
Then it's too close. Exactly. If you can't change
it. Go with what the umpire said. Exactly. Go with what the umpire said. If you can't tell right away in slow motion, you don't have to watch it 8 times in slow motion. Go with what the umpire
What's going to
said
change?
If you can't tell right away. It takes way too long.
They're looking. Okay, they're looking for that one. Okay, there may be 15 camera angles. One camera angle may show differently than the other 14, but it shouldn't come to that. I mean, like you guys are saying, if it's that close, okay, then go with it. Then use the umpire's judgment. The vast majority of the time they're right anyway.
Right. There should be a time limit.
Well, not the vast majority. On the vast majority, they're right. But the vast majority they're not right on the vast majority of the ones that are being protested. They're right.
What's happened too, Ralph, right now is that in the past, an umpire would really bear down to get that call right because it was important. Now it's not that important because the guy says, well, I'll call it, and they'll look at it, and if they change it, they change it. And that's kind of become the attitude now. They've gotten a little sloppy, I think.
It's a societal thing. I posted the other day that there's a laziness in society that wasn't there, an imperfection. Give you an example: serial killers. These shallow graves. They're becoming lazy. These guys. In the old days, they could bury a bunch of people. They'd stay there for years, wouldn't be found. Now you get a lot of shallow graves. These serial killers are becoming lazy. It's a societal thing.
Well, in the old days, Ralph, they would have the victim dig their own grave, get in it, and then they would kill them.
Right, a lot more efficient. It's a throwback, the way things were in the old days. This is kind of nostalgic, isn't it? I like these things. A little tear came to my eye about the way it was in the old days. We could bury somebody. You could bury Hoffa under the goalpost or in the end zone. not going to dig this guy up for a long time. They did it right. Let's put it that way. Okay. What other rule changes that they're talking about? Robert, anything that comes to mind?
Well, the other one is the end of the season one, where August 31st, come September 1st, you used to be allowed to call up anybody that was on your 40-man roster. Okay, that's now being changed to just 28 men are going to be allowed to be in the dugout at any one time. So, you're not going to have 30 guys in the bullpen, like in the last several years, and every batter, gets a new pitcher, that sort of thing. So they're trying to.
Can they switch it day to day, though, Robert? Or has it got to be like the same 3 extra guys or 2 extra guys?
No, as long as they're on the 40-man roster, that's still fine.
So they could change it. Let's say
yes.
One relief pitcher pitches like 4 innings one game. So the next game he's not active and somebody else on the 40-man could take his place? Yes. Okay.
And what they're going to do is you can then, during the regular season, 26-man roster, a limit of 13 pitchers. Okay. When they expand it to 28, then you're allowed to have 14 pitchers. So, you'll have that one extra pitcher. But that'll prevent, all these parade of relief pitchers and, like the spring training games. That's, September games became nothing more than spring training games.
Now, I like that more than the one Marty said that he doesn't like. I agree with you, Mert. The one that says a relief pitcher coming in has to face 3 guys in a row. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Unless it's the end of an
inning, I think, right? Unless if it's the end of the inning, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Like if he comes in and gets the 3rd out of an inning, he doesn't have to pitch to 2 more guys the next inning. It's only in the same inning. Right? Yeah. So.
Yes, but still.
Yeah, I understand. But still.
Well, I don't like changes anyway. Baseball's been good, for these many years. But that's going to make the manager look at things a little harder. Okay, I've got a lefty I want to bring in. I've got to match him up against the 3 lefties that they got in the order and stuff like that. So, it's going to make the manager work a little bit more. Or I should say, the analytics guy work a little bit more.
Right. Who whispers it in the ear of the bench coach, who whispers it in the ear of the manager.
Yes.
That's how we're going to work our crew. We're going to have the bench coach, the manager, and the pitching coach. It's going to work.
Yep.
All right, guys. Great show. Very, very interesting, as usual. And we'll be back at you again next week. How about that?
Hey, before we go, because, we are talking New York sports, let's give Marty a couple of minutes to talk about the Jets.
Beautiful.
Well, if they wouldn't have beat Washington, I think we would have all been shaking our heads. But being here where I am, I was not able to see the game, and I was watching some of the Red Zone, and they hardly showed any of that game. Very, very little. 2 bad teams. But, Darnold had 4 touchdown passes, and he becomes the youngest Jets quarterback to throw for 4 touchdown passes in one game, beating Joe Namath by a couple of months, I believe. And the early part of the schedule was very, very difficult, and the second half of the schedule is not as hard. So, they could possibly, come out of the season with maybe 6 wins, where we were thinking 2 at the beginning of the season.
Right.
If that.
Yeah, Washington's really really bad, very, very bad. I mean, that franchise has taken a nosedive, very, very deep nosedive.
Oh yeah. And the other bit of good news is that the Giants didn't lose either. Of course, they didn't play, but they didn't lose.
That's true.
Hey, speaking of New York sports, Hal Bach, Marty's old friend from the Associated Press, and really every time he talks about Murray, your uncle, he is so appreciative of early on tutorage and how your uncle was so great to him early on in his career. And naturally, he was great. He was great to us. Did we not have a bunch of tickets? Formed our lives over sports. So
that stopped after a while. You know, they stopped. They had to stop accepting tickets. I don't know what year, but for many years now, they haven't been able to do that. When we were kids, it was completely different. You know,
I didn't.
I think he got like 4 tickets. It wasn't just him; other guys. They just got like 4 tickets to just about every game. You know, gratis from the teams.
Right.
So but they did stop that after a while. I don't know if it was more than one reason. I mean, one reason that everybody kept asking the sports guys for tickets, but I guess some of the teams, they may have felt like they were trying to buy good press by giving free tickets away. You know, so
which they were. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but we appreciate it.
That might have come in. Anyway, Hal Bach and George Grimm, the Ranger hockey writer, they've teamed up for a podcast on this very network. And so if you guys anybody out there is interested, it's Retro Rangers. And if you go to Comfortably Zoned on YouTube, subscribe, and every time there's a show, it will come up. Every time there's a show of any kind, it will come up. We've become a terrific network, I must say, and that show in particular really adds to it. So there's a plug for Retro Rangers with George Grimm and Hal Bach. Anything else that you guys have in mind that you want to get off your chest about New York sports?
No, I think we covered quite a bit tonight.
Yeah,
good.
Well, personally, I don't watch the NBA or the NHL, so I cannot comment on any of that stuff.
Well, his show, the show I just talked about, goes back to the days when we were going to games. It goes back to when we did, because it was much easier to follow. First of all, in person, and we had great radio announcers.
And there was only 6 teams back then, also.
Yep.
Right. We knew every player on every team, and when they came up. It was tremendous. Just like the NBA had 8 teams, and in a doubleheader, you'd see half the league for 75 cents on a Geo ticket.
That's right.
From high school. The only problem with that is you had to go to school to get the ticket, to get the Geo pass.
And
I was going to ask, could you have it sent? Here's $1. Keep the 25 cents and send it, so I don't have to go to school. But that never happened either.
We're getting ready. We're getting ready to move pretty soon, and we're going through a lot of old stuff, and you're not going to believe some of the stuff I found, Ralph. I mean, I found a bunch of old ticket stubs, which I did put one out there. You saw it on the Polo Grounds site from a Titans game in 1961. I don't know if you went to that with me. You may have. I didn't remember. They played a Thanksgiving Day game at 11
was
o'clock
it Dallas?
in the morning.
Was
Buffalo.
it Dallas? Then
no,
it wasn't me.
It was Titans 21, Bills 14. I looked it up.
Whoa.
But I also found some of my old high school program cards, talking about the GO cards. Oh, my God. Unbelievable, yeah.
You found some of those?
Yes. Yeah, Peggy says, you got to see what I just found. I walked in there. Holy match, you found my ticket stubs, my high school program cards, a bunch of old pictures, fantastic stuff. Unbelievable. Yep.
Beautiful.
Then we're looking at the ticket prices, and she's going, how much? $1.50?
That was a box seat.
Yeah.
I think I did have one Lowe's Reserve, $2.50 from probably Shea Stadium. So
yeah,
incredible.
Well, the old Titans when they played in the Polo Grounds. I mean,
yep.
I got there occasionally because my best friend's father was an usher, and they would give the ushers hundreds of tickets to pass out to anybody just to get people into the stands.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No question.
It's called papering the crowd.
Yeah.
And if basically that's what they call it.
If there was 100
Thanksgiving Day game at 11 a.m., Ralph. I never remembered that one. They were doing everything to not go up against the NFL. That's why they played those Saturday night games instead of Sunday. So,
right.
Mert, did you ever keep those old newspapers that for every tragedy or every happening?
You know something? I thought I threw them all out.
But you kept them.
But like I said, we're moving. We're going through old boxes and stuff. I must have thrown out all the sports ones. I probably did. I didn't find those, but I did find a couple from the end of the Vietnam War, on the front page, and I did have stuff from 9/11 that I kept. So those I still have. I think those are probably the only. I didn't dig through all of them because we were really busy the last few days. But yeah, I have a lot of that old stuff just showed up. Unbelievable.
Keep it going.
Yeah, really.
All right, guys. Terrific one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, everybody. It's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm privileged to have Robert Cole and Marty Rose.
All right, see you next week, guys.
Okay.
All right. Be well, everybody. Thank you.
You too. Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.